I'd love to start with a quick round of introduction.
Sure. So I've spent about 25 years in various corporates, large and small. About 5 odd years ago, I started investing in early stage startups. We set up a category 1 venture capital fund called M3V Capital, invested in a bunch of companies. ZRPL is one of my investee companies. And in the last 1 or 2 years, what I've seen is the potential is so large that I've started spending a lot more time at ZRPL. In fact, I'm formally a part of ZRPL team now, and I spend more time with them than I do with my fund. So that's the kind of potential that I believe this platform has. Over to you, Nikunj.
We've been worked in like 3 companies, Pepsi, Samsung and Dell, plus 25 plus years of work experience. And at the last my stint in Dell, I was managing the corporate strategy for APJ consumer. Before that, been 12 years as general manager of consumer channel sales, and catching up with Bhalla, who's an old-time friend. We bounced this idea and got hooked to it, and joined ZRPL team. And for the last 1.5 years, been worked rigorously in terms of putting the team together, the concept, and bringing the clients to the table and to the brands and all together. And this has, we see good potential, and we are convinced of this great idea. And that's why we are all here in terms of, propagating this to the like-minded people who would like to be part of this journey.
Like I said, gentlemen, it's great to have you with us, right? Now, e-commerce is something that I think each Indian has experienced, right? In some way or the other, before 2020, and I think post 2020, I think, the way, e-commerce became so critical, right, to our existence. I think it was absolutely phenomenal, right? And this is now not necessarily only a tier 1 phenomenon, right? Or even a tier 2 phenomenon, right? I think this is something which is cutting down much deeper. There are many fintechs that are also coming, right? So, rural areas again have become very, very agile when it comes to, their comfort of transaction, payments, for example, and all that, right? So the ecosystem has kind of moved in a very, very different direction. The masses know, what e-commerce is, and that's beautiful, right? I'd love you to touch upon the construct of this, right? You're not a very quintessential, B2C e-commerce play, right? You're doing it in a very different kind of an environment. Would love you to talk about that.
So I think maybe if you'll permit me to go into a monologue for a few minutes, I need to, give the whole context of what's happening. So, most of us in India were introduced to e-commerce around 2013, 2014 when Amazon started its India operations.
Right.
And we learned how easy it is to, buy, you order a product, it lands up at your doorstep. And marketplaces like Amazon and Flipkart have, truly done phenomenal job in bringing access. Brands can access consumers and vice versa. And that's been working out very well. But with every system, there's always opportunity for improvement, right? And I think one of the concerns that we've heard in the markets, locally in India, has been that there is too much power with a few people, right? Without taking names and without getting to specifics, is that if I'm a consumer today, earlier I had other players that I could buy from, and now there's a very limited set of people that I can buy from. And I cannot choose the payment gateway, I cannot choose the logistics company, I cannot even choose who I get to see, right, on page 1. If I need to buy, X phone or buy TV, the marketplace has a lot of power in terms of what they are able to give me. And if you've been following Nandan Nilekani and the recent announcement of the Open Network for Digital Commerce, ONDC, what it aims to do is kind of deconstruct the value chain. So instead of having these verticals where all the power rests with the marketplace from end to end, they're kind of breaking it up and bringing some kind of democratization in this whole access, right? And so I would encourage those of you who are interested in e-commerce to kind of go through the strategy paper on ONDC and what's happening. But what is interesting is what ONDC purports to do, and started work about 6 months back. The Zepp team started building about 18 months ago. And so they realized that there is a need, without being a gatekeeper, there needs to be a democratic way of enabling access between consumers and brands. Brands want to be able to access consumers, but they struggle how to find them and, bring their offerings to them. Similarly, consumers want to be able to engage directly with brands in a very convenient way. So looking at that problem is how the whole Zepp platform has been built and, imagined, and it's getting rolled out with various parts. So in summary, what Zepp does is you have a bunch of brands. They could be physical products like Samsung or Dell or TVS or whatever, and you have consumers. The consumers could be homemakers, students, corporate employees, anybody. And so how do you most efficiently connect these two without providing any friction, without us providing a point of view on how this transaction needs to take place? I think that's enablement is what Zeitgeist Retail is all about. ZRPL is all about enabling access. Brands to access consumers, consumers to access brands. So that's the high level philosophy. Obviously, we can get into more specifics.
Interesting. Nikunj, do you want to add to that?
So the bigger problem that when we looked at the corporate purchase programs or the student purchase programs, as a user, I have to go through multiple journeys. I have to go through multiple websites and do my own research in terms of price comparison, spec comparison, and evaluate various offers given by various brands, and to make an informed decision on this, right? So Zepp as a platform is bringing the aggregation of all these offers into a single platform where the customer has an option to evaluate between the brand offers, evaluate within the brand this various product or the multiple configurations being offered, make an informed decision. And the whole idea of bringing the transparency here is to keep the price honest and make it in a way that the brands also own the customer in terms of fulfillment of the last mile logistics. Though the Zepp and the ZRPL team hands over the customer from the order to delivery, the brand also takes an equal ownership in terms of fulfilling the order to the customer. And the most critical part here is what you see on the brand product pages is exactly what you see on our product on our web page as well. So it's not something like an N-1 version offered here at a cheaper price, right? So it's the same product which is currently the brand running, the same product you see on our portal. By the technology integrations, which I think Bhalla will dwell on a little more, we were able to get the current stocks, current models with the current listings and get them onto our portal, and with a seamless order processing happening, the value chain or the value benefit the customer sees here is he gets the right product at the right price.
Interesting. Now, I'm just gonna, just for clarity's sake, right? Now, I think Mahesh gave a very, very large macro perspective of, right? For example, how this shift is sort of happened, right? Because you kind of broke it down. Now, at a distance, what I wanna, when I look at Zepp, right, my understanding is that you are essentially enabling closed ecosystems with the power of e-commerce, right? So, for example, if it's a corporate, for the programs that they want to sort of, for example, run for the employees, you would empower them to have a very strong, incentivization mechanics, for example, right? And they could, the employees could benefit from the e-commerce plugins that you provide, right? Or universities for that matter, right? Which is a massive go-to in the current circumstances, right? When we talk of India, is that a fair understanding, or are there, there is more than what meets the eye?
I think you actually captured very correctly. What we try to do is ensure that a given set of customers is able to access a certain number of products from a certain set of brands in a closed ecosystem. So the pricing is very special, and we are able to do it at n equal to 1. So for example, let's say you manufacture refrigerators. Now, if you've got excess red colored refrigerators sitting in your Jaipur warehouse which are not selling, you have the only option is you drop the price, and which means that the moment you drop the price on red colored refrigerators, people are going to say, okay, but your black one is expensive, right? And so that's a problem. And then everybody can see that price. In our ecosystem, what we enable the brand to do is be very, very targeted. So the brand can say, okay, if it's a Wipro employee logging in from a Jaipur IP address and wants delivery in Jaipur, then the red colored refrigerator can be delivered to him at 500 rupees locally. So these kind of, geolocation based, customer based, preference based choices, which we are able to give to the brand, ensures that the brand has almost like a closed conversation with the consumer without the rest of the world getting to know what the deals actually are, right? Today, you log into a public marketplace, the price is very open. Anybody can see, and then that creates, to be honest, chaos. Because any one person can drop price. When you have 500,000 sellers on your marketplace, anybody could be creating mischief, they could be selling fake products, anything could happen. But what the Zepp platform enables you to do, whether you're a brand or a consumer, is access the original product at the best possible price for you as an individual consumer. So you get to access in a very closed and confidential way what you are eligible for. And it is definitely better than what you would get in the open market, be it offline or not.
Interesting. Now, Mahesh, that's a very interesting point that you've made, right? Now, I had a recent observation, right, where I was looking at, one of the large, technology companies, right? I had the opportunity of looking at, the platform that they offer, right, for their employees. And essentially, what happens is that employees have a benefit program. They get certain points which they can go and redeem on these platforms, right? My sense is you also provide that flexibility. Now, when I saw that system, right, honestly, the experience was hardcore, right? And when I say that, I genuinely mean it, right? The number of products that were listed were much lesser. There were possibly products that were, like you said, right, not necessarily selling as fast.
And minus
one. And those are the ones which were listed, right? The bigger problem, and I think, possibly a better way to sort of have solved this problem is that, when you have those points, make them redeemable, have their, if there is a cache layer of sorts, right, I can go onto an open ecosystem and buy whatever I want to, right? Because the permutation combinations that are available to me are much higher. I'm not limited by that choice, right? Now, my sense is, because you're solving for these silos, possibly what you're offering, doesn't it seems to be over-engineered, because, the priorities could just be so much more different, right? When you incentivize somebody in a cash form or a prepaid card or whatever, right? Or in certain points, right? In an open ecosystem, they can redeem it wherever they want, right? Possibly go out and have a party, right? What's your sense of it? How do you see that? Because that is going to be a very plausible alternative to what you offer.
You bring up a brilliant point, right? There are people who try to deliver value through miles, bank points, if you are an employee rewards and recognition channel, R&R.
Sure.
But here's the beauty of it. Let's say you're a frequent flyer with an airline, right? And you've got 10,000 points. What are your options today? You go to the airline website, you either redeem it for flights, at best for hotels, and if it's an evolved website, maybe you can use it for gift cards. The gift cards give you access that you are able to buy one of those gift cards and go to the website and apply. But it's not a singular experience, it's multi-step.
Right.
What Zepp enables you to do is take exactly those points and consummate that entire transaction on the same platform. So in fact, we are integrated with some of India's largest employee and channel and corporate R&R providers. So instead of taking those points and burning them through a digital product and then going to some other place to actually redeem it, our APIs enable the same people to deliver far better value for their points, for their miles, for their reward tokens, whatever it might be.
Sure.
The fungibility across these different media are provided in a very seamless manner from our system. So today, if I'm a frequent flyer and I've got, let's say, miles from X airline, if my airline was integrated into the Zepp platform, I would directly be able to burn my miles with every manufacturer and buy those products and have them deliver it to me at the best price at my home. So the value for each point, mile, token is actually far higher than you would actually be able to get by going through the other ecosystem.
Interesting. So, Mahesh, the other question that I want to know, and possibly Nikunj can step in and kind of comment, right? Now, so what? So I think we've got a fair drift, right, in terms of how you're kind of plugging into a closed ecosystem, right? And I kind of buy your point, right, where there is a continuity that brands can actually go out and provide, right? Brands, which are, for example, say incentivizing their customers, or even, for example, corporates, right, by creating these loyalty programs, so on and so forth, right? So there's a certain ecosystem that they're creating, and that makes a lot of sense, right? People continue to play within their own extension, right? Now, what I want to understand is, are these platforms that you're enabling for these ecosystems, are they white labeled, or you continue to operate, in your independent identity? And there's a certain relationship that you establish with the customer as he or she comes on board, right? Because that customer could be engaging with you across 5 different platforms, right? There's a universality that is there in your, possible ecosystem. So is there a certain recall that you create and a relationship that you create with that individual? Or this is white labeled where, I deal with silo A when I interact with brand ABC, and silo B when I interact with XYZ? How does it work? I'd love to understand.
I'm going to take a minute here to explain, I would say 3, 4 or
Sure.
5 different routes to market, and then Nikunj, please,
Right.
fill in whatever I've missed. So what the Zepp platform does is able to track the consumer over their lifetime. So let's say we begin by engaging with somebody when they're at an engineering college, right?
Sure.
And so at that point in time, they log into the IIT student purchase program,
Right.
they transact over there. Then they get a job, they get placed at Wipro, Infosys, Tata, wherever. Then they log in through that platform, but it's the same
Sure.
person, right? You're able to track the person's life cycle and transition them. Maybe they would have got a better price as a student, or maybe they get a better price as a Tata employee, right? So that whole thing gets tracked.
Sure.
So this is the closed ecosystem piece. Now, what is becoming very interesting is now that ONDC is getting rolled out and Zepp is, getting integrated in the next cohort of ONDC, that is an additional value we are able to provide our brands. So there is a bunch of these closed ecosystem front ends that we own and control and, enable our brands to access. But more importantly, wherever the brand says that, look, we are already integrated with Zepp, why do I now need to integrate with an ONDC? Using our technology and pipe, the brands can actually access another 100 marketplaces using our platform.
Sure.
So this enables them to operate both in closed and open ecosystems, depending on their choice. Then this is all about enabling access. This goes back to giving power back to the brand. The brand can choose. If you're a Wipro employee in Jaipur, this is what you get. If you're an IIT student, this is what you get. If you are flying Indigo Airlines, this is what you get. And if you are going to be buying on Amazon, this is what you get, right? So the brand is able to manage your entire journey, and all these options the platform is able to provide this to the brands for their consumers.
Yeah, and also as Bala touched upon the life journey of the customer, right? We also have created a Zepp Coins as a reward program for the people who are frequent purchasers, and each Zepp Coin is equivalent to a rupee, right? If the customer accumulates over the period of time certain amount of Zepp Coins, he can buy the product by redeeming those points. Apart from the discounted prices he enjoys, he has another value benefit in terms of Zepp Coins coming to him. And also, as a customer moves from platform A to platform B in terms of his moving from being a student to corporate, and tomorrow he might move from corporate 1 to corporate 2. We could in coming days create that interpolability so that the customer enjoys the points which he earned remains with him irrespective of the state of his professional career where he is in. So with that, I think the stickiness around the whole journey of the customer is what we are emphasizing, and that's where our internal team focus is to hand over the customer the life cycle.
Very interesting. I like particularly that point of interportability, right? I think that's just so much more important because the environments are so many. Now, a very important question, right? Now, something that a typical B2C ecosystem does not have, right? Which is that of intelligence, right? Now, when you're creating for such hyper-local setups, right? When you're creating for such closed networks, you have access into far more deeper, meaningful information. For example, and this is actually a question, right? Now, when you say, for example, plug it into a company A or a university B, right? Do you get a lot more insights into, for example, the kind of spends that say, so for example, the earning patterns of intelligence, right? Earning patterns, appraisals. Are you getting insights into all of that also of these employees? This is, I think, a question which is more skewed towards organizational play. And just want to understand that, right? Are you getting those insights, or you're not getting those insights? And this continues to be essentially preference-based, right? And there is an improvement as and when the individual interacts with the system. Would love to understand that.
I think today we are getting some level of insight. The data points are still not as large to be able to build a very large model, but we are able to aggregate behavior at a geography level, at a gender, at an age, at a corporate level. We can even, pretty much sense that which companies are running their own programs, because we find, let's say, their participation level of printer purchases are lower than the average, right? Or some companies end up buying a lot more gift cards or insurance, right? So those insights are available, but since we are in pretty much a first year of operation, I think it will take another couple of years for the data models to mature, where we can, have actionable intelligence.
Super. Now, gentlemen, I'd love to understand, one more aspect, which I think is very, very critical, right? Now, what's your relationship with these brands, right? Are these brands, is there an exclusivity that you're kind of building with these brands, which also becomes a moat for you in the process? That's one. Second, are these brands, is there a special relationship, right? How do you get incentivized by these brands, right? What's the business model and engagement model with these brands, right? Do you get paid differently? Is there an onboarding fees apart from, of course, larger commissions that get made in the process? Will be great if you could shed some light.
Theoretically speaking, there are some 10 different P&L lines, okay? And it depends differently on which brand is more comfortable and where they've allocated their budgets. So let's start at the very beginning, right?
Sure.
Marketing. Having visibility to a particular banner or a particular visibility on that particular website, some brands are willing to pay for that. So that's advertising and marketing.
Sure.
Then if there's a financing involved, and that's a functionality we've not yet switched on, but integrations are on with fintech players. Let's say you're a Wipro employee, you want to buy a particular brand of laptop. Now you're looking for EMI options. So with our API integrations with various NBFCs, we can give you options. You pick this one, you pay 3,500 a month. You pick this one, you pay 3,600 a month.
Sure.
And so there's a finder's fee, which is pretty common in the industry. So that's another possible revenue stream. Then there are volume-based rebates. So a brand will tell you, look, I'm happy to deal with these customers, but the moment you get me 10,000 orders, I'm willing to pay you X.
Sure.
And then there's a front end and a back end version of it. So there are different revenue streams which Zepp is able to get. What we are very, very pleased about is when we compare with what a brand has to pay the existing marketplaces, which can be anywhere from 6 or 8% on the lower end up to 40% in some categories. We are able to deliver better value back to our brand. Our brands are very, very happy working with us because their net realization, working on the Zepp platform is higher than for other online customers. The CAC numbers, cost of customer acquisition, is far lower when they work with Zepp. And most importantly, the customer is their own. Today, the rules with various marketplaces, if you're a seller or a brand, is that the customer is owned by the marketplace. They don't give you customer data access. You don't have the phone numbers as a brand. You're not able to market with them. In our case, we're completely transparent. We're saying, look, we'll showcase your offering to the customer. If they buy, you invoice and deliver to them. So they're your customers. You can remarket to them. You have the data. And so all of these values that we provide back to the brand, better realizations, direct customer access, direct fulfillment, complete control on the customer experience, is what sets it apart as a differentiator. Now, what's different about the idea? Frankly, now that I'm speaking with you, 10,000 people can hear about it. Anybody can go replicate. And here is where the competitive moat comes in. The cost of integrating and get compliance approvals for having our supply chain and our backend integrated with their supply chain is not something they can do with everybody every day. There's a whole set of approvals and a process to go through. Today, Zepp offers more than 100 brands. We are on our way to get to 1,000 brands in the next 2 years. And so these instances, we are already hearing where once we've integrated with a particular brand, they say, okay, we've heard about this newfangled thing on ONDC. It's too much of an IT effort. We don't understand it. Why don't you just handle it for us? So more and more brands are trusting us with taking care of their front-end integrations with ONDC or other marketplaces as well. And that competitive moat where we are able to fulfill orders, full pricing, look at inventories, manage that and give them that in real time is the real competitive moat, I believe.
I completely agree with what you're saying, Mahesh, right? I think kind of, CACs are, I think is the biggest of all pain points, right? And that's not just across e-commerce, but I think the overall spectrum of tech and, tech-led businesses, right? Now, while I understand, right, the CACs are low, what I want to understand is, what are, for example, what are conversion numbers, right? So say, assuming an organization with an average size of 1,000 employees, right? What are the kind of conversion numbers that we're looking at? That's number one. Number two, if you could give a reflection of, or if you could reflect on, what are the current, numbers for Zepp? If you can give us a view of that, that'll be very interesting.
Our GMV at this time is still very modest compared to the potential that we have. We are still doing a few crores a month, so that's reasonable. It pays for the electricity bills. But what is most important is the conversion numbers, right? At this point in time, we've seen a clear life cycle. The first time the person gets to know about this, they just spend time on the website, they don't buy. Then we've got some, freebies in the sense that there is zero cost trials. We've got free trials from people like Norton, etc. So those are the first things they order and they figure out, okay, this works. This is not a fly-by-night phishing site. It's real, right? Then they buy a small ticket item, few hundred rupees, right? And then they move on to laptops and more expensive things. So there's a complete journey. in any given month, what we are finding is about, I would say, 50% of our revenue comes from returning customers. But most importantly, 50% of our customers in any given month are first-time users. And so the graph is very, very steep. Our conversion numbers are still in single digits, but it's because we are adding a lot more consumers who are coming and testing out what is happening. Our month-on-month, our quarter-on-quarter revenue continues to grow very, very steadily. And that is what is giving us a lot of confidence, because we're still at a very small fraction of the total addressable market that we have. Let me give you a very simple example about the Tata group of companies, right? Outsiders think Tata is one homogeneous group, but it's more than 150 legal entities, right? So as the purchase program gets rolled out for specific brands at Tata's, it has to be done one company at a time. And there's a compliance. The HR team wants to check it out, IT has to check it out. As you know, the group of companies is reasonably independent and have their own compliance and control processes. So I might say that we have 700,000 Tata employees who are on a platform, but there is a rollout process when the people want to communicate it to their employees and how it gets rolled out. So we are still rolling out across various companies of the Tata group, right? And so it's a slow, long burn, but exceptionally profitable and exceptionally, I would say, trustworthy. We talk to, let's say, an IIT. Now there's 20 plus IITs, right? And so once we are in an IIT and we go to an IIT, let's say a Delhi or a Kharagpur or a Kanpur, there'll be a lot of gatekeepers who want to make sure things are fine. But once it's fine and one of the deans or directors or whoever is in charge of that sends out an all-student email saying, okay, we've ratified it, this is real. You can actually buy discounted laptops from every brand, from Dell, HP, Lenovo, whatever, right? It's official. This is the site, go. Then that day itself, we get a huge spike and then the numbers sustain. So it's about getting comfort with the people the first time they find you, they test you out, and then over time it grows. So the numbers are looking very encouraging. I think today, as I said, we are a couple of crores a month, but in less than 3 years, I'm reasonably sure, all of us will be able to deliver 1,000 crore GMV very, very comfortably, given how big this is going to get very soon.
Interesting.
TVS is already live. Sorry, go ahead.
Interesting. I think that was my next question, right? I think it'll be nice if you could, talk about some of the large corporates that you've been able to, acquire in the process. And the other question is, how long is the acquisition process, right? Typically, how much time does it take? I completely buy your point, right? I second you, right? That this is a solid moat that you create. These are not easy acquisitions to do, right? And I think once you've plugged in, it's usually very difficult for, I think, any organization to switch out, right? And I think in your process, like Nikunj highlighted, right, you're creating a lot of these points and and that's a very different kind of an engagement, right? And that becomes your defense over a period of time, right? But we'd love to understand how many corporates, which are the marquee corporates that you have, and
So if you need names, the Tata group of companies, so TataAPP.com is owned and operated by us, Wipro, Infosys, Cognizant. I think Indigo goes live tomorrow, day after the airline. We've got India Mart. We've got a bunch of others as well. On the student side, we've got IIT, IIM, NIT, SRM, Manipal, BIT, pretty much. So we're going top down in terms of scale, size, and brand name, and then we're democratizing it over time, because obviously you want to start at the beginning to build credibility and go down. On your question of how long it takes, it all depends on how easy is your in. Frankly, while we do cater to technology, we are really a B2B2C company. We partner with businesses and companies to be able to access a consumer base. And so in some cases, it takes longer. In some cases, it's faster. In some cases where even, let's say, the corporate headquarters in Bombay might have said, yes, this needs to get rolled out, it might take 12 months for all the group companies to actually roll it out, for some group companies. So it's a long haul thing. Some things move very fast, some don't. But I think in a B2B2C environment, that is what makes sense. So if we were a pure consumer brand, yes, we could spend a lot of money in acquiring customers directly. But I think when you go B2B2C, your CAC numbers are very low. Initial friction is high, but then stickiness is much higher because there's a lot more credibility, right? Once, let's say, an India Mart head of HR, for example, was to tell its employees, okay, we've ratified this is real, all of you guys can get products at discounts. That gives a lot of confidence to the employees, right? And so they would be able to buy products on our website, pretty comfortably. And so it's a journey, but very positive from what the numbers are.
Interesting. Mahesh, so last 2 years have been very, very interesting, right? And we've seen 2.5 years actually, right? So we've seen a massive transition that has happened in India becoming a digital economy, right? Which is a very strong plus for you. But I think a lot of brands, right, have formed themselves up, right? Now you see a lot of them, they prep themselves for a digital first economy, right? Their ability to engage with the customers just becomes so much more sharper, right? A lot of these guys are going out and creating a lot of content, for example, right? And this is all available on social media, right? where the consumer is in a default setting, right? Visiting at least 15, 17 times in a day, right? They are spending a certain amount of time, right? There are preference orders that are getting mapped out, right? Now, for a brand to target a customer is just so much more easier. Even the pricing sharpness, for example, is kind of coming in, right? Where depending on your preference order, you can be targeted, retargeted. Prices can be moved in a certain sensitive way, right? Now, what I want to understand in an environment like that, right? For a typical customer who's buying from you, right? Possibly you're in an early stage, there might not be a correct, or a fair representation of this. But what I would love to understand is for every single buy that a consumer has outside of the platform, what's the ratio like, right? What is it he or she is buying inside of your environment vis-a-vis what are they buying outside, right? If you've been tracking those numbers, because I think they're going to be important. You possibly creating a shift, right? Thus this becomes important.
Right. So when we were building this out, we went and spoke to a bunch of target customers to understand what the pain points are. Right. And so here is what one of them told me, right? So I spoke to this Wipro employee. And they said, look, I know as a Wipro employee, I'm eligible for a bunch of discounts. I could go to a Hyundai dealership, show them my Wipro employee card, and they'll give me $20,000 off a car. Or I could call the Dell call center, fax them a copy of my card, and they'll give me some discount on a laptop. Or I could take a code that my HR guy has given me. I could go to Samsung.com and buy a Samsung mobile phone at a discounted price. And so as a Wipro employee, I'm eligible for all of these discounts. However, the purchase experience is extremely, I would say, broken, right? What if I want to compare what is my price for an Oppo versus a Vivo phone versus a Samsung phone? Why can't somebody put it all together? In fact, somebody actually took this example. If let's say you were an army man in India, right, buying from the army canteen, it's open news that army people get products at cheaper prices. They go to one place, they can buy everything there at a cheaper price. They don't have to go to 10 different shops. Why? Right. So why can't somebody set up a corporate canteen for a Wipro employee, right? And so that's exactly what we did. We took the same offers that they would, as it is, have been eligible for. If they went to Samsung, they would have got the same deal. Right. But the reason why every brand is signing up with us is they found that the cost of communicating to that employee, be it Wipro, Infosys, be it a student or whoever, the fact that you have to tell them on any given day that, okay, today on this model, I'm giving you 500 rupees off, or today on that model, I'm giving you 10% off, is humongously difficult. And if somebody aggregates all those offers and puts it inside the intranet, and a Wipro employee can just click on the intranet and open his Wipro company canteen and see, okay, these are my prices and my offers, and I can buy directly from every brand through this single front end, the customer experience becomes so much better, right? And so that's what we are targeting. In terms of the share of wallet question that you had, somebody was asking me, why aren't you going after the R&R points, employee R&R, companies give whatever X rupees as points instead of gift cards, why don't you, create a portal? But think about it. Any large employer, whether it's across tech or fintech or whatever, if you have an employee to whom your CTC is 10 lakh rupees, your budget for employee R&R is maybe 10,000 rupees. It's 1%. So while we enable the R&R, whether it is a channel of an employee or for whoever, that's a very small part of our TG. We are focusing on where is that employee spending his 10 lakh rupees. Right now, we know the big ticket spends are consumer electronics. They're buying items from their home. They want to get into apparel. They want to be able to potentially buy vehicles and automobiles, and eventually maybe even buy homes. So how can we target a larger percentage of the spend? So that's the larger, number we are going after. We're not looking at their incidental spends. We're saying if a corporate employee has 10 lakh rupees, out of which maybe he saves 2 lakhs and 8 lakhs gets spent on various things, how do we deliver them better value for that 8 lakh rupees? And so that's what we're going after. So today, TVS, for example, offers its two-wheelers, bikes and scooters on our platform at much better value to students and employees when they book it through our platform. And nothing to prevent somebody from going to a dealer and getting a deal. But what they've given us is over and above what the dealer will give you. Here is a bunch of benefits that you will get by going through this platform. And that benefit of being able to talk directly to consumers, of being able to be present in their face through the college canteen or, through the airline points or whatever, is what is the big differentiator. And that's what brands are loving.
Interesting. Mahesh, Nikunj, last question from my side, and then of course we cover some of the questions that have been kind of raised by people in the audience. What are the next 2.5 years like, right? What are the milestones that you set for yourself? What kind of growth that you anticipate? Of course, you alluded to it, Mahesh, of your aspirations, right? Around your aspirations, but very specifically, how are you kind of breaking it down? what are the things that we do you every 6 months, cumulatively at about 2.5 years?
So let me share with you what my expectations from the team are, and Nikunj, please fill me in. So, we've got goals set out for the team at every line item. So there's a functionality element. So for example, today we enable our brands to do a lot more with technology, but there's a clear roadmap for the tech team on what else the brands need to be able to manage through the self-help portal, right?
Sure.
The merchandising and the catalog teams have got goals of how many brands, how many variations, how many SKUs they have to deliver. The operations team has to, goals to deliver on order to delivery lead time, how to switch that by a certain number of days with our integrations with our third-party logistics partners. Overall, there's obviously GMV goals that the company has. We've set out, I would say, very, very modest goals, but the company knows that it has to deliver 10x of those goals, right? This is to make sure that everybody is winning as they go through, right? I mean, you take a single car, you move a Toyota through your system, that's 20 lakhs of revenue right there, right? And so the potential is phenomenal. The goals, I think, are going to get multiplied. The content distribution API that Zepp has started now offering to its partners to be able to integrate with their front ends enables a humongous jump in GMV. And thanks to ONDC, what we've been saying for, before ONDC times is now a reality in the market. People realize that instead of having to go reinvent this by themselves, it is far easier for them to, just go live with us and then make the system available. What we've seen in terms of live examples is if I've spoken to maybe 100 brands, right, for onboarding, I have not heard no from even one brand. At best, they've said, okay, our IT teams are busy this quarter, we'll integrate next quarter. But the moment you go back to a brand and say, I'm giving you complete access to customer, you get to decide what product, what price, at what time. No brand can say no to that, right? And therefore, it's just a matter of being able to get tech talent on board. And by the way, if anybody out there is, on the tech side and looking for an interesting change, our tech team really needs all the help it can get. We've got a huge backlog of integrations. So, tech talent, please send your resumes in. A little bit of a pitch there for hiring.
Awesome. Nikunj, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so to convert all the English Bhalla said into numbers, which matters to the team a lot. So our idea is to onboard at least 1,000 brands in next 1 year and reach 10 million or more customers, active customers who are buying on our platform on a regular basis. And then keep our GMV growing to the corporate goals, at least 10x to that. And the behind all this, the main motive is not to lose money on a transactional basis. So we ensure that our return rates are not there, and the products are delivered in good shape, tying up with all brands which bring value to the customer, and not only just getting some just for the sake of putting some brand there, not putting up. We evaluate and the brands which have the ability to do direct fulfillment are priority number one, because that's where the customer also gets the experience differentiated from any given marketplace, right? It's not just going and doing a 100 rupee GMV kind of stuff, but bring the value where the customer sees. And most importantly, offer the products and the catalog which suits the set of customers, right? Say the differentiation from a student to an employee is there. The choice of products are quite different. So the brands also help us to create those differentiations with their own marketing studies and position the products in such a way that what appeals to the student and what appeals to the employee. And yes, we are working to improve our brand team in terms of reaching the social content, active on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Apart from our pretty strong email campaigns that we run on a weekly basis, reaching out to our research customers. So from a goal standpoint, bring 1,000 brands, valuable brands to the platform, and grow the active base to 10 million. If I have to summarize the whole exercise into 2 points.
Super. Gentlemen, it was an amazing conversation, right? I'm going to move to the questions and we'll try and cover it very quickly. Mahesh, I think you have a hard stop at 8:30. We'll try and cover as many as we can while you're here. Now, the first question is, what are the unit economics like? Are you profitable at a per unit level? Anybody who would want to?
Short answer, yes. In no case do we subsidize the product by even 1 paisa. The product price is decided by the brand, what the end customer pays, and we don't subsidize it at all. So yes, every unit is profitable. The product is also delivered by them. So on a unit economics basis, we are definitely profitable. Where from a P&L standpoint, we're not yet profitable because there's a huge amount of IT infrastructure cost. Right now, I would say almost 50+% of our entire company's cost is going to IT. And as it scales, today I said we have 2 crores of revenue, but as we get to 100 crores, 1,000 crores, our entire cost will go up by maybe 2, 3, 4x. But we can scale our revenue by 100x, right? And that's where the profitability of the company comes in. So that's on the unit economics side.
Interesting. Next question. Are brands paying you? Do you have a paying relationship, right? Because if they're not paying, they could, honestly, they could, the lack of seriousness can kind of hamper how they engage with you, right? And eventually the overall experience that you intend to communicate with the buyer in that corporate setting or in a university setting. Are brands paying you?
Short answer is yes. We are transparent on how much money we make. Now, there are different ways of getting that money. It might be marketing fees, it might be order handling fee, it might be a back-end rebate paid by the brand. But every order is profitable. In fact, I was talking to one particular company, and I don't want to name the company, but there's a large, very well-funded fintech company out there who posted 0 revenues and a few $100 million of losses. And their claim to fame is, we don't take any margins, we'll give you all the money, right? And everybody can understand that's an acquisition gimmick. And we're not in that game, right? We are very clear about, we'll get you the customer, we'll take a very tiny sliver of money, enough that justifies, our technology fee, and then you and the customer engage together. And so, yes, it is profitable at a unit level. We are making sure that discipline is there.
I think, Mahesh, I think a small addition to that, I think what they meant was that, are the brands paying you? I mean, do you get an onboarding fee when you bring them on?
Currently, we are not charging any brand an onboarding fee, because right now we ourselves have a backlog of brands. At some point in time, we will look at it. It's one of the line items, but today we're not charging brands.
Interesting. Another question. It'll be interesting to know a little more about competition. There are a couple of other people who've tried to be in the same market. Some of them are not necessarily very visible, but there are players who are in the market, right? Would you want to take that up and comment?
It's very interesting. I always struggle to explain to people that I deal with of what Zepp actually is as a technology platform. Some people say, okay, how are you different from Cred, or how are you different from Vantage Circle, or how are you different from so and so. And so I think in some ways our technology is a superset of what all is available today, right? So let's say if you're a Cred customer, you download the app, you get great offers, you're able to buy. But then you have to be a Cred customer, right? And so if I was to compare the Zepp platform from a technology standpoint, we would be probably closer to what is, let's say, called the Unified Payments Interface, UPI, right? When you're using UPI, you don't really use UPI. You have a front end that you work with. It could be Google Pay, could be Bharat Pay, could be Paytm, could be whoever. The technology enabling it is the Unified Payments Interface, right? And so that's what Zepp is all about. We're not very concerned, frankly, with building a brand. We don't expect consumers to come to a Zepp store to buy, but we are a B2B enabler. So our technology enables people who have consumers to be able to do seamless transactions. And that's what we said.
Interesting. Okay. Another question, and I think an interesting question, right? Now, vis-a-vis the catalog that you provide to a certain corporate, right? What's the differential vis-a-vis open market rates? I mean, are you able to give sizable discounts, or are these, momentary spurts, right? Like Nikunj at some point had mentioned, right? The 500 rupee discount. So, is this more a communication channel, or the discounts are sizable and the differentials are large vis-a-vis what happens in the market outside?
Let me answer that in 2 parts, right?
Sure.
Because we are a new player or a new offering in the market, unless we provide a substantial discount, there's no reason for people to buy from us, right?
Sure.
And so wherever we find that the delta vis-a-vis the market is low, those products are not offered. Number one. Number two, we work very closely with brands to offer a particular set of SKUs which may be relevant to that customer base. So let's say take a leading printer manufacturer which has got 40 SKUs that are anytime available on a marketplace for the consumer segment. But we work closely with them to identify 12 SKUs which cover pretty much all the, inkjet, laser, whatever ink tank technologies there are across Wi-Fi, scan, etc., which pretty much cover all the dots. And those SKUs are always cheaper on our website. Now, since you're pushing for numbers, I will tell you, typically we try to ensure that there is at least a 3% delta, and 3% is for products which are highly price sensitive. Maybe they're laptops, maybe they are like currency like gift cards, and they could be as high as 50% delta vis-a-vis those brands offerings in the open market. And open market is defined as whether you buy from an online marketplace or any offline store. So we try to maintain a 3 to 50% delta, right, in terms of value that we give back to our consumers. Interestingly, as you probably know, the marketplaces are not really controlled by anybody. Any seller can go in and provide a product at a given price. Now, in that scenario, even the brand doesn't have control, the marketplace doesn't have control. The seller can suddenly go in and discount 20%. So our platform runs a cron job every 1 hour, which reads through all the competing prices, and if it finds that at a given point, a particular price has been broken by somebody, that product gets disabled on our platform, right? So at any point in time, our customers are, I would say 99.9% sure that there's nothing out there that will be cheaper than what we offer.
Interesting. Last question that has come to me here is what are the biggest challenges for your growth?
The biggest challenges are two actually, both on the onboarding the brands, integration, technology integration, because we don't want to buy the inventory, keep in our warehouse and then ship the material. We want the order to flow seamless. So as Bhalla stated, we are running behind few tech integrations pending, which we have to complete for the brands to be onboarded. Second, especially we find the challenges in the corporate world, reaching the customer in terms of the emailers or new acquisition, especially the time taken for onboarding each company is a little longer. Anywhere starting from a month to 2 months we spend in terms of engaging with their procurement, legal, HR, and then finally rolling around and then spending time in terms of building the traction around the customer journey. So I think those are the two biggest challenges which we have. And as we improve our brand integrations, customers would see more value chain in the system, and they will find more products which are in a regular need and build the stickiness. I think the traction will build. I was reading the book on Amazon. It took 10 years for them to reach the first level of the milestone in US itself. So I think we just started walking.
Interesting. Last question, Nikunj, in continuation with what you kind of mentioned, right? We entered a slightly troubled time, right? At an economic level, right? We're seeing certain cut downs, right? Hiring, for example, is kind of slowed down. The overall sentiment is in a way, not necessarily as exciting as it was just about 6 months back, right? Is that something which is a cause of concern? Is that something which is going to delay or the plans? Mahesh, for example, has given you a very, very a very, very difficult one, right? But is this something which you think is a little bit of a spoiler, or is this a momentary play which you think is going to apply in 6 months?
See, if you reflect back 2.5 years, the COVID period, right?
Sure.
From tier 1, I would say the online comfort of the customer from tier 1 cities to tier 4, tier 5 cities has increased, right? If you look at the data points, 65% of the smartphones smartphones are in tier 2 cities and below. Now people are using more of that. And if you look as a corollary to any of the music industry, the streaming industry is making huge money by streaming this thing. So people are now getting more used to buying online. And also if you look at the Indian GDP position, right, the last 3, 4, 5 years, whatever it is, it's never been less than 6%. Even the yesterday's report of World Bank has reduced it by 0.8 basis points, but still at 7+. And I think we are one of the best growing economies within the Asia, right? So I don't see the winds are so strong that we need to take a pause and recalibrate our journey. And I think we are on the right path. Maybe at the right strategic point of inflection where the people are getting used to the Gen X and Gen Y and Gen Z are more comfortable on this, and the technology easiness that which we are bringing to the table. I think the adoption rate should go up, and people would see more value addition in terms of buying on the product. And when it becomes, as Bala said, your own canteen, right? For lack of any better English word, apnapan hota hai, right? And then you tend to stick together, and you tend to buy that. And if you are catching the customer early from their education, and we are moving with them into the corporate journey of life, obviously, we have more stickiness, and we can bring more repetitive buying from the customer. And with our loyalty program, we are sure customers would find that it makes a differentiated buying and experience for them.
Interesting. Gentlemen, it's been absolutely amazing to have both of you. I'm going to open the floor for any direct questions.
So I've seen your URL. Why not it was with a different name? My first question. Why not it's ZP? I think there is a different company with that name. And why are we promoting with the name at ZP now? This is my first question. And the second question is, till now, how many companies you have collaborated with in India, and how many vendors you are having? Yeah,
okay,
that's it.
So on the question of why aren't we using the Zepp brand name more often, I think it's relatively straightforward. We don't see Zepp as a destination for consumers to come to directly, like Amazon, Flipkart, Croma, Reliance, whatever. We are an enabler of technology. Much like India today is the largest digital payments, having overtaken China and USA. Everybody uses UPI, but most of you know UPI is something, but you actually do the payment through a Google Pay or a Paytm or a Bharat Pay or one of the interfaces that you're comfortable with, and the backend technology is UPI. So that's where Zepp sees itself. We are an enabler of transactions to happen. In some cases, we may use the Zepp brand name as a placeholder, but in reality, if you're the IIT student purchase program, your loyalty is to the student purchase program and not necessarily to Zepp, and we don't want to change that. So that kind of explains why we're not really pushing the Zepp brand name. It's more like an internal product code name. The second is in terms of how many brands do we have? We have over 180 brands when I last checked available on our platform that consumers can buy. And in terms of number of corporates, depends whether you count the Tata group of companies as one or 160. Like Tata Motors is different from TCS, right? And so we probably have close to a couple of hundred companies over there. We have Wipro, Infosys, Cognizant, Tata, IndiaMart, and more being added every day, right? We also work with partners. So for example, we are the official partner of Kodo, which is a SMB credit card issuer. They have 2,000 customers. So 2,000 companies in India have a Kodo card. And when they want to buy, only those customers can access for their corporate purchases the Kodo Zepp store, which, if you're a Kodo card holder, you can, otherwise you can't. And then everything you get there for your company is cheaper than you would get in the market. And then again, you get cashbacks on your Kodo card. So our total addressable market, I would say, is definitely in hundreds of companies, if not thousands. But we do want to get to, from a consumer count standpoint, about 10 million consumers in the next, I would say, year, maximum 2 years.
And I think what has really happened is that because the consumers are consuming from just about a few screens, right? And certain ecosystems that have become so much more prevalent, right? Social ecosystems that become so much more prevalent in our life, right? Because they kind of weaved us in with people around us. This game became a game of capital, right? Where brands were going out, and whoever had most capital kind of went in and to acquire that customer, right? And that just took the CAC to the roof. That made the ecosystem very, very difficult, right? What I'm particularly excited when I look at, with what you're doing, I think is a channel for many, many new brands that are getting established in this economy, right? And there is a huge transition to that, right? The bigger ones know their customers. The bigger ones, while they want that access, I think what Zepp as a platform is going to do is going to become a very differentiating channel for newer brands to become, engage with customers at a much much more efficient way and a meaningful way, and establish that relationship, which is so much more important, right? And I think that's the disruption which excites me at a very, very different level, right? Mahesh, Nikunj, it was a pleasure to host the both of you. I think India needs a platform like this, which helps newer brands to build a very strong, consistent relationship at lower tax in the process. And I think you are evangelizing that, you're enabling that, and playing a role of a very critical catalyst in the process. We wish you all the very best. Thank you so much for doing this. We wish, with the subscription, Godspeed, right? And hoping more and more people come and contribute to your race. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ashu.
Thank you so much, Ashu. Lovely conversation.